Okay. Welcome everyone who just started to join us. I know you were in the waiting list, so waiting room, sorry, not list. So thank you for your patience. We will just wait a couple of seconds before we begin to make sure that everyone who registered is here with us, and I can see there's still people joining. And in the meanwhile, as usual, I will look around who is here with us today. Hello, Elias. Gusto verte. Check around. Okay, so to take the most of our time, I think we can begin. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to see many participants joining us from different corners of the world. My name, for those who doesn't know me, it's Adriana Pizzi. I'm JCC Membership Manager, and I will be your moderator for what I'm sure it will be a very engaging and insightful discussion on Loloma Hour, Fiji's happy hour for environmental and cultural preservation. Before we begin, I would love to share some exciting news. For those who don't know yet, our JCC Global Conference is just around the corner, and this year we're very happy to be hosting it in the beautiful and sustainability-driven destination of Fiji from August 5th to the 8th, so almost just 1 month to go. And we're expecting around 500 participants from across the tourism sector, including governmental agencies, hotels, tour operators, development organizations, academia, and more. And over 4 days, we'll explore a very rich program featuring training, panel sessions, workshops, networking opportunities, social events, and our third academic symposium that we're very much looking forward to. And today's topics, Loloma's Hour, is a great example of the kind of local innovation and leadership in sustainability that we'll be highlighting during the conference. You will hear much more about Fiji's effort to protect its environment and culture while creating a deeper and more meaningful travel experiences. And if this kind of initiative inspires you, I highly encourage you to join us in person in the conference. We have a special discount for JCC members, Pacific Island participants, and groups. I will be dropping the registration link in the chat later on, so you can have a better look from the speakers, the programs, and more all. And of course, we'll be very happy if you could join us over there. And before we begin, just a very quick reminder that this session is being recorded and you'll be able to access it later in our YouTube channel. And after the presentation, we have time for a Q&A session. So please feel free to submit all the questions that you may have using the Q&A feature that is in the bottom of the Zoom screen. And after the presentation, Anna will address them. So let's turn our attentions to today's topic. I'm very honored to introduce our esteemed speaker of today's session from Tourism Fiji, Anasini Bakaniseva, the Global Marketing Manager. Today we were also going to have another speaking, but she left for maternity leave. So she left us in a very good hands with Anna, which is a marketing professional with just over a decade of experience within the telecommunication, aviation, and tourism industry. Her passion lies in promoting Fiji as not just a travel destination, but as a vibrant, sustainable, and culturally rich brand that leaves a lasting impression on every visitor. Anna plays a supporting role in shaping and executing the organization's global consumer marketing strategies. She oversees daily marketing activities, drives major global campaigns, and ensures that Tourism Fiji own channels and international partnerships deliver a unified and authentic message about Fiji's unique culture and natural beauty. So I'm over speaking now, and I will pass it to you, Anna. Please, you can begin this insightful webinar and share your screen.
Thank you, Adriana. Let me just share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen now.
No, not yet.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, now we can. Okay, go ahead.
Amazing. All right. Good morning, everyone. If you're joining us from outside of Fiji, warm greetings to you and thank you for taking your time out to learn about Loloma Hour in Fiji. If you're joining us from Fiji, a big mbula vinaka, and I trust you're having a wonderful week. As Adriana did mention earlier, I know most of you were expecting probably 2 presenters this morning. However, my colleague has had to bring forward her maternity leave. And just as they are, we're pretty excited to welcome her little bundle of joy into our Fiji Valley too. So this morning, I've been tasked with talking to you about something that's pretty close to a lot of our hearts here in Fiji, and that is Loloma Hour. Now, as we prepared to reopen back in 2021, one of the key components of our work lay in research and analysis. And just being able to analyze what travelers were hoping to do when borders reopened. And mind you, the borders were shut for a long period of time because of COVID-19. So in conducting the research and analysis bit before we reopened, we worked very closely with, excuse me, with a research agency called 2031, or better known to us now as SCIFT. We worked with them to find out what the appetite was like for travelers at that time. So one key finding that we were able to identify was that travelers were hopeful to give back to the environment the next time they were traveling. So this was basically where Loloma Hour was born. It's a sustainability initiative that was developed by our creative agency, Havas, for Tourism Fiji. Now, Loloma Hour has been in the pipeline of planning for the past 2 years, and there are a couple of reasons that has contributed to this. One of the main reason was just ensuring that we're approaching Loloma Hour in a way that is respectful, as sustainability in Fiji tends to be a very sensitive topic of discussion, especially when you're trying to convince a group of people with different interpretation of the term in general. Not only that, we were touching into a more sensitive component, which was culture. And that's a very important part of Fiji as a destination. So overall, we had properties that are already doing so well in the sustainability space, while some were just learning to explore what they could do in sustainability. One of the reasons that it took us a bit of time to come out with the Loloma Hour was that we wanted to make sure that we weren't whitewashing or over-commercializing bits of our culture, our environment, and so forth. But instead of doing that, we had to make sure there was an opportunity in place for not only our guests, but also hosts within our tourism industry to relearn the ecosystem cycle and how our actions as human beings or as Fijians contribute so much to the environment that we all love to call home. Now, moving on. So for context, this slide talks briefly about the manifesto or It briefly summarizes the idea behind Loloma Hour. And let me just read it to you. So most holidays are about what you receive as a visitor. Ensure massages and mojitos make you smile for a while. But in Fiji, we know genuine happiness, the kind that stays with you long after you leave, isn't just found in what you can do for yourself. It's found in what you can do for others. That's why we're launching Loloma Hour. It's an opportunity for visitors to give back to Fiji through positive environmental, cultural, and community impact. And in return, they'll receive genuine, long-lasting happiness. See, in Fiji, we believe happiness doesn't come from what you take, but rather what you give back. Now, what is Loloma Hour? Loloma means to act with generosity driven by love. For us here in Fiji, the word Loloma is one that has many different meanings. So it means love, kindness, generosity, care, forgiveness. Excuse me, I have a cough, so excuse me for that. Forgiveness, and it can even be translated to gift. Now, Noloma itself is having to show love through acts of kindness or through acts of being kind or generous. Excuse me. So with Loloma Hour, we are inviting visitors for a chance to give back and make a positive environmental and cultural impact while on holiday. Moving on. So for Loloma Hour, our goal is to generate a total of 5,000 hours of time that is contributed to protecting our island home. And this is basically through the different pillars of activities that we offer in the resorts that offer Loloma Hour activities. Now, why is it important? If you've just joined me on this webinar, I was mentioning at the beginning of the webinar the fact that we had borders closed for close to 2 years due to COVID-19, and at the back of reopening in December 2021 through to the beginning of 2022, we had to conduct research and analysis where we found out that travelers were more attentive to their travel needs. Excuse me. So travelers were looking more towards sustainable travel through giving back to the environment, as well as the community that they're wishing to visit. So for us here in Fiji, the Fijian tradition is one that is grounded with the interconnectedness between our people, our vanua or our land, and of course, our culture. So for Fijians in general, our ancestors lived in a way that allowed their everyday actions to naturally give back to the sea and, of course, to the land. And this was basically rooted in the culture that we have in Fiji. So with Loloma Hour, it's basically an opportunity for us to rekindle that connection and at the same time invite guests to be part of what we as Fijians would like to protect. And that is our people, our culture, and our environment. Excuse me. Now, how does it work? It's quite simple. There's no complex process involved. But at the launch of Loloma Hour back in April, we were happy to partner with an initial 21 properties who registered sustainability activities for their Loloma Hour activities. So with these properties, they either had to have an activity that they were already doing for sustainability within their properties, or they were happy to introduce a completely new one. So with the activities that were conducted once a week, guests and travelers, all they had to do was inquire at the reception desk of the resource that they were staying in on how they could take part in these activities. Now, with these resorts, something that they had to do as well for the properties that were part of Loloma Hour, part of the criteria is they had to ensure that the activities that they were putting up as their Loloma Hour activity is sustainable, and of course, part of the different pillars that we have, and at this need to be, we need to that it was offered on a weekly basis, and if there was a fee involved, they had to make sure that part of that fee goes back to the local community or goes back to the department that looks after sustainability to ensure that their work continues in the long run. Now moving on to our Loloma Hour activities. Like I mentioned, for Loloma Hour, we have a total of 4 different pillars, and that is giving back to wildlife, giving back to the community, and of course, giving back to the reef and giving back to the coastline. Now, wildlife basically speaks to the local endangered species that we have here in Fiji. And not only that, we have a lot of wildlife. This also includes those that are in the ocean as well as on land. So a good example of this is the Fijian crested iguanas that can be found on the islands of Malolo Island Resort, Liku Liku, Liku Liku Lagoon, as well as Six Senses in the Mamanuthas. Now, for community, this speaks directly to the people as well as the local communities or villages. So for us, it's something that we're so passionate about, as this is more the need to protect our culture as well. And not only that, the way of life of Fijians in general. For reefs, it was speaking more towards ensuring that our underwater world continues to thrive, especially with the climate change that is constantly knocking on our doors here in the Pacific Islands. And of course, for coastline, basically refers to the practice of maintaining our beaches through planting mangroves, and of course, beach cleanups as well. The next few slides are basically little bit information into each of the pillars. So it touches in on what activities can be found on each of the pillars. And do note that the activities are not limited to this, because we're always open to having more activities. But we've set this as a little bit of framework on how we want to have the wildlife pillar set in space. So with wildlife, we have the local flora and fauna walks, manta research and best practices, the shark research and best practices, sea turtle conservation, iguana conservation, and of course, kids environmental program in our different resorts. For community, we had farm to fork experience, basket weaving, pottery class, village tours, Fijian cooking class, culture hour or culture talk by one of the locals, weekly market stall for Fijian products, and of course, the kids' cultural program. Now, giving back to the reef, this is where we have coral planting, fish house building, giant clam nurseries, and of course, coral art structures. Now, giving back to the coastline, this is simply where we have planting a tree, planting a mangrove, and of course, beach cleanup. Now, like I mentioned, the activities are not limited to the ones that I have on the screen, but rather we're always open to having more activities added in to the different pillars that we have. Now, moving on to our Loloma Hour partners. So initially, when we started Loloma Hour, we onboarded 21 operators, tourism operators, and 19 of which are accommodation providers. 2 were activity providers. Now, there's a criteria that we ensured to follow here. It was basically, we needed to make sure that the properties that were registering for Loloma Hour had to have guests with them for at least 4 to 5 hours or more in a day. Now, because Loloma Hour is centered to 1 hour, that's a happy hour for the environment, we needed to make sure that operators is accommodating guests for at least 4 hours or more in a day. So that is why we partnered with accommodation providers as well as 2 activity providers. And these are Captain Cook Cruises, who takes out half-day tours as well as full-day tours into their operating scheme of things, as well as Seventh Heaven, who also offers the same half-day and, of course, a full-day tour. Now, with the properties, this does not mean that we are limited to these properties, accommodation providers as well as activity providers. We are looking at ways where we can have the whole industry on board Loloma Hour. So that is still a work in progress for us because we are very fresh into the launch of Loloma Hour. It's always important for us to get the basics right before we move on to other things that we have planned for the project. Now, to date, we've registered an additional 6 properties into our Loloma Hour operators listing. These are Sao Bay Resort in Taveuni, Dolphin Island, Fiji in Rakiraki, the Sheraton Resort and Spa, Tokoriki Island, Fiji Marriott Resort, Momi Bay, Sheraton Fiji Golf and Beach Resort, and of course, Sheraton Denarau Villas. So they've basically completed registration and joined the rest of our pilot operators as Loloma Hour partners. So this is basically a list of all our Loloma Hour partners to date. Now moving on to our assets. Now the work on Loloma Hour isn't very complex. It's one that we basically dug deeper into our Fiji Where Happiness Comes Naturally brand and utilized what we've already have. So with new brands, we understand that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So with Loloma Hour, what we wanted to do was ensure that we're utilizing what we already have as Fiji Where Happiness Comes Naturally brand. And this is where the Loloma Hour logo was born. It came in with different iterations, which is available for use by Loloma Hour partners. Now, the logo symbolizes that of a yimbe, this motive beside the word Loloma Hour is of imbe. Imbe is a Fijian term for mat, and that's a significant part of the Fijian culture. And the imbe is used by many Fijian households and is usually a common ground for most families. So it represents an area for family conversations, for eating, and for sleeping. Now, with Loloma Hour, our imbe motif and logo serves as an invitation for guests to come in and be part of our family as we share our home with you through the different adventures that we're offering, as well as giving back to the environment and the culture that we are helping to preserve. Now, moving on, in addition to that, we've also produced a film, which we had casually tailored to speak to a range of different audiences, especially when we are talking on the topic of sustainability. The film was basically edited into different variations. We had a 1-minute video and a 15-second video, and it was made to basically suit different channels that we were hoping to reach out to when we are talking about Loloma Hour. So what I'll do is I'll play this video, and hopefully it was working, but hopefully it does this time around. Adriana, if you can please just let me know if you can't hear it from your end, or yeah.
Not yet.
Okay.
In Fiji, land, sea,
Yes.
and people are one. A bond built on love, care, and responsibility. That's why we live by Loloma, the generosity that flows from love, the care we show to the world around us, sharing, protecting, and giving back to the land with an open heart. Loloma is woven into the fabric of our lives. It's how we care for our home, for each other, and for anyone who visits. That's what Loloma Hour is all about. Time to honor the island homes that welcome you by caring for them as we do. Take part in meaningful activities to help protect Fiji's natural beauty and culture for generations to come.
That was basically our film for Loloma Hour. And like I mentioned, we had different variations of it, just ensuring we're speaking to the right channels to reach various audiences that we were trying to reach. Now, in addition to the film, we also made sure to take, we also had a range of still photography, and this was taken during production. Now, with stills, it's always hard to capture sustainability because it's about doing things from the heart. So with stills, we make sure that we have a good set for our image library and for everyone to choose from, basically. Excuse me. So while we were working on that, we were also lucky to have amazing pilot partners who went out of their way to also talk about Loloma Hour and the wonderful work that they're already doing in that space. Now, 2 months on, Loloma Hour was launched on April 8th. And then in June 8th, it marked 2 months of Loloma Hour being in the market. And for that, we're pretty excited of what Loloma Hour is doing for the past 2 months. So to date, we've recorded a total of 1,738 hours of giving back to the environment and the culture. And this, if I may add, is recorded from only a total of 14 properties over a period of 2 months. To date, we've also had 27 properties, Loloma Hour properties that we've onboarded and are pushing for Loloma Hour within their different properties. Now, from the total hours that we've accumulated for the 2 months, we got 920 hours that was dedicated to wildlife, 393 hours that was dedicated to reef, 269 hours that was dedicated to community, and 278 hours that is dedicated to coastline. For Loloma Hour, we also have Loloma Hour on our Tourism Fiji website. So for the past couple of weeks, it's been one of the top performing pages on our website. And it just shows the interest that we have about sustainability in general and just giving back to the environment and culture. Now, for the past 2 months as well, what we've also done is there are a few properties that are working towards beach cleanups. And for the past 2 months, they've been able to collect 516 kilograms of waste through their Loloma Hour cleanup initiatives. For global PR, we've had a massive interest from various different outlets around the world, and we're glad that these media agencies have covered our story of Loloma Hour, basically. Excuse me. We've got the likes of BBC, Forbes, Euronews, and even National Geographic, who's reached out to cover for the stories as well. Now, like any other project, we have hopes for the future or aspirations that we like to call them. And for Loloma Hour, we see it as a force for good, especially for the long run. And here's basically a few points that we've put together of what we hope Loloma Hour will be in the long run. Now, first one is just having a proactive approach to continuous learning, especially about the 4 different pillars. Now, with Loloma Hour, what we plan to do is we're hoping we have a continuous learning strategy. And what we're planning to do is we're hoping to work closely with a few stakeholders to build a learning strategy for our tourism frontline ambassadors. These are basically the people that interact with guests on a daily basis to host the activities of Loloma Hour in these different properties. What we're hoping for them to do is to continue to learn from professionals. We have organizations that look after wildlife that we're starting to work with now to see how we can tailor resources to be able to showcase or tell them or make them learn more about what they're doing. And then in the end, I think it's even better for our tourists, our guests, when they come in and learn from professionals as well. And not only that, when they do go back home, it's an opportunity for them to also teach their young ones. So for us, it's more so a proactive approach on continuing to learn what Loloma Hour is all about, especially in terms of wildlife, reef, community, and the coastline. Now, the second point is basically continued involvement as a space where local voices are elevated, cultures are celebrated, and everyday act of Loloma towards our environment is recognized. So we see this as a platform where local voices continue to be heard. And basically, we continue to celebrate the different cultures that we have here in Fiji, not only the local Itoke culture, but our brothers and sisters of the Indian race as well. Our brothers and sisters from Rotuma, and so forth. So because Fiji is a multicultural country, it's an opportunity for us to basically celebrate the different cultures that we have and show love basically to the culture as well as the environment. Now for point number 3, given its impact, we hope Loloma Hour forms the framework of sustainable tourism for emerging tourism operators. It's an incredible project that touches into the hearts of sustainable tourism. And we hope that with all the learnings and the changes that we continue to implement, it'll form a framework which will allow new tourism businesses or tourism operators can look to when they are like aspiring to open up their own businesses. So for them, it'll act as a framework of how they wish to run their business, ensuring that what they're offering is sustainable for the environment as well as the culture that we have in Fiji. And finally, making Loloma Hour a lasting movement, given its potential to grow into something truly meaningful. We see a big potential with Loloma Hour. It's something that we feel that is not only very effective for us here in Fiji, but we feel it could be effective throughout the region as well, throughout the different Pacific Island countries that we have. And we'd definitely love to work with Pacific Island partners to try and roll out Loloma Hour in a bigger way. Yeah, so to basically conclude, now for Loloma Hour, it's not just a global campaign that has a start and end date. We hope to continue it and have it as close to our hearts as possible as we can. We wanted to make sure that the work continues to stay meaningful. For us, what we always say is we're not experts in the field of an environment. We're not scientists, but it's the passion that drives us to basically protect our environment, protect our culture, and just being able to work on a meaningful approach that allows us to celebrate the different cultures that we have and have a meaningful journey for the sustainability of Fiji's environment and culture. Minaka.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this great presentation and also for your resilience and to manage to
I
tackle
know.
that annoying cough. So thank you very
Yes.
much because we know that you did a big effort. So thank you very much. And as you said, it's clear that Loloma Hour is not just a tourism activity, no, it's a new way of thinking about how we travel and how we can give back while doing so.
Yes.
I'm sure our audience have many great questions, since I know I already saw many of them. For those who hasn't wrote them yet, remember that you can post your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat. Or also, you can just raise your hand and I will unmute you and you can ask your question directly to Anna. So let me begin with one here. There's several regarding monitoring and measuring. So can you tell us a little bit more, Anna, how do you measure the environmental and community impact of the Loloma Hours activity? Is there any system in place you have to track the long-term outcomes?
So with Loloma Hour, what we do is every month we basically, as part of a criteria, resorts or properties are expected to provide a monthly report to us on how Loloma Hour or how the activities are being conducted throughout the month. And for us, the report that we have is basically one that we keep to ourselves, but the plan is to have it available for public use at the end of every quarter. So at the moment, it's still fresh. We're still 2 months into Loloma Hour. But what we plan to do is to make it out, to have it publicly available on our website for everyone to view. In terms of long measures of KPIs, we are working with organizations. So we have an organization here in Fiji called Nature Fiji or Maringetiviti. They look after wildlife, basically endangered species, not only animals or species, but plants as well. So what we are working towards, we've already started discussions and we're working towards plans on how we can work with the properties to ensure that there's accurate measurement of what they're trying to do. And if they need help on what they can, if they need help on the activities that they have for Loloma Hour when it comes to wildlife, they are there for that. But at the same time, what we're trying to do is put up a long-term measure where real results are measured instead of just going in and helping them. It's always good to have something tangible for the properties to always refer to when they are talking about the results of their work, basically. So yes, that is a work in progress, but we hope to have that ready by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. I have a next one here. Do you also measure how many of the activities involves a fee? And if so, do you plan to also include the fee generated by Loloma Hours for the community environment in your KPIs?
Yes, we plan to do that. In fact, we have a list of operators that actually charge. So part of registration is them letting us know if the activities are free of cost or are charged. So with those that are charged, one of the criteria that we highly enforce or recommend is that the fees are given back to the community or are given back to the research or the department that basically looks after sustainability in that property, just for the long run of it, because we understand that most things nowadays involve money. So having to run sustainability activities involves fees as well as like requires funding, basically. So for that, we're trying to ensure that that happens. So, but at the moment, we do not have it as part of like a KPI, as in for us to be able to measure it. But because for us, we feel it can be a deterrent to properties of that are wishing to come on board and join the Loloma Hour movement. But at some point, we will need to do that as well.
Okay. Next one over here. How could a corporation that sources two operator suppliers recreate something like this? Should they stick to one location to start?
How will the corporation do this? I think that's something that I was talking about. The fact that we At the moment, we are looking at those that accommodate guests for a period of 4 hours or more, at least 4 hours or more. And because it needs, with that recommendation, it allows them to actually tick that activity box of being able to give back 1 hour to Loloma Hour. So with other operators, what we're trying to do is we're trying to see ways in which they can get involved as well, especially tour operators. We have a lot of those on the ground, but we understand, I think what we try and plan to do is to maybe start from their staff level and then move on to their guest level. For example, for us here at Tourism Fiji, we don't host guests. Where we do for meals and where we host media trade, but for us at Tourism Fiji, for staff, we are also allocated time where we will need to do a Loloma Hour activity and give back an hour of our time to Loloma Hour. So it's a work in progress. It's something that we're hoping to fully develop, and then just being able to get our tour operators involved as well. The specific behind that is not confirmed, but we hope to get something confirmed and out of the way so that all tour operators are involved in Loloma Hour.
Okay. We have another one here. Well, it's regarding challenges, no? Have you encountered any resistance from accommodations or other stakeholders when promoting Loloma Hour? What has been some of the biggest challenges in rolling this initiative?
So with Loloma Hour, I would I'd say the biggest challenge right now is having our properties come back with monthly reports. It's totally understandable because at the moment we're into peak period here in Fiji, and there's, with capacity on the ground and resources for different properties, it's a bit hard to keep up with having to provide reports on a monthly basis. But at the end of it, we're always trying, we're always pushing. We've even gone to the extent of providing templates on how they can provide a report. So for us, we're always trying to find ways in which we can help our operators, just to ensure that the communications is seamless. Communication is also like going both ways, and it's easier for everyone to do their part when it comes to Loloma Hour.
Malena. The following over here, how does the Loloma Hour initiative ensure that the benefits of environmental and cultural preservations are equitable shared among the local communities? And I'm going to read about the monitoring because you already explained it.
Yeah. So the thing is, we're trying to work with the Ministry of Itoke. Conversations have already started. So the Ministry of Itoke looks after Indigenous people as well as culture for Fiji. So conversations around that space has already started. What we're also working on is basically have involved a consultant where they will start working with us on how best we can measure cultural preservation, especially. Culture is an important part of Loloma Hour, but it can also be a bit difficult to measure. But what we plan to achieve when it comes to culture is basically educate Fijians on how we can be more sustainable. Like I mentioned in my presentation, that for Fijians, we've had we've had this way of living where we are dependent on land and sea, and then we feel that the land and sea is dependent on us as well. So it's kind of like interconnected. But right now, what we feel we see is not a lot of people know this. And what we're trying to drive when it comes to cultural preservation is start from grassroots level and try and educate our people on what they can do when it comes to cultural preservation. For example, different properties or different tourism operators are stationed on, actually built on land that or resource owned by locals. And for locals, they can have a particular story or legend that resonates with that particular land. And for us, just being able to connect that with those that are hosting guests, being able to tell that story to our guests, and at the same time go back home and tell our kids about that same story. Because at the end of the day, that is trickled down, and that is ensuring that our culture continues for generations to come.
Yeah. What you were saying just remind me, we had a webinar also with Tahiti, and they were mentioning that one of the challenges regarding cultures was exactly that, to how to transmit their culture, because there was no documentation or registration of the tradition. It's just it's passed through words by generation by generation. So I believe this kind of actions, it helps to keep transmitting all these
That's
cultural
right.
values.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So next one over here, do partners participating in the initiative benefit from specific recognition, certification, or other incentive from Tourism Fiji or the government to highlight their efforts and encourage more of them to get involved?
That is a good question, and
Yeah.
something that we are working towards. With specific recognition, I feel like for us here in Fiji, we are so we are so engrossed in the fact that certification needs to come from a tangible certificate. But when it comes to sustainability, printing is a problem. Because that's not very environmental friendly. So what we're hoping to do is have a specific certification that is probably digitally recognized, where people can use, not only they can use when they are doing their work in terms of emails, they can use on social, just to promote the fact that they are a Loloma Hour partner. At the moment, what we are doing is we have our website where we are listing all our Loloma Hour partners, basically. And it is important to get the right recognition, the right certification for things, but as part of what we hope to do in the future, of what we aspire to have when it comes to Loloma Hour, is to have these basics under wraps, ensuring that people are recognized. What we also wanted to plan, what we were planning around also, is just basically to have ambassadors of Loloma Hour from different properties that is responsible for different things, like providing reports, taking pictures, ensuring that things are done in the right way. So most of the time we'll get, because what we also plan to do is have continuous learning sessions where we involve stakeholders to come in and get properties in under a room for a day, where they learn about culture, they learn about the environment, they learn about wildlife, coastline, they learn all the basic of this. And for the people that come into a room, we are hoping these are basically local or people that interact with guests on a daily basis. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question of initiative and benefits.
Yes, I think it did. I think we have just time for just this one question over here. To maintain tourism resources, do you impose a tourism tax or accommodation tax on travelers? In maybe not tourism Fiji, but maybe in Fiji, I don't know if the government has
Yes, I
implemented.
think the government has environment tax or something of that sort, but for us at Tourism Fiji, not really. We don't, that's not part of our job description of imposing tax, but it's more so government level. Yeah.
So I believe this brings us to the end of today's webinar. Just a quick reminder that the session has been recorded and it will be available soon on our YouTube channel. So feel free to share it with your colleagues or to rewatch it later on. And a huge vinaka to Anna for sharing this amazing initiative of Loloma Hour with us. It's such a powerful example of how tourism can support nature, culture, communities while still offering visitors a more meaningful and lasting experience. So thank you for sharing what has been of these last 2 months with us. And of course, thank you to all the participants for joining us today. We hope you found it useful and inspiring. And thank you for making time to be with here in this webinar. I wish you all a great morning or evening, whatever you are, and maybe hopefully see some of you in the conference in Fiji. So thank you very much.
Definitely, yes. Thank you so much, Adriana.
Thank you, Anna. Bye bye, everyone.